But transportation, now that's quite a subject. Mostly, or not mostly, I'd say, it is possible to move by the speed of thought. You have to go somewhere just like that, and you're there, see? But there's another mode, which is to move slowly. You have the sensation of movement, which in itself is delightful. You know, when you ride down a scenic road, you can look out and see the scenery, whereas traveling by thought, you wouldn't see this.
Because you're there.
Because, right, you're there, see? But to travel, and you see what you learn as you travel, that's delightful to learn, see? And then you just appear to be floating through space. Like we see birds flying through space, they just seem to float through space. And while we don't have any wings, we just float through space.
Would that be comparable to walking on air?
Yes, but people don't walk.
So it's not walking?
No, it's not pedestrian. It's not walking. They just move gracefully. And then some people think that there's chariots, you know, and they think of Elijah being caught up in chariot of fire and horses of fire, you know, they're, oh boy, fiery. But that's for demonstration on earth. In heaven, they have little chariots, but they're not all this flamboyant. They don't call attention to themselves. They're more like the angels, servants. They're just there to serve the saints. And they can be small, like two-seater, like in the olden days you take your girlfriend for a ride in a two-seater, you know, or they can look like buses, have a lot of seats. And these vehicles can move on the land or on the river, you know, or through the sky, any place that, and the Spirit of God moves them.
Is time kept in heaven? Are there days, weeks, months, years?
Heaven is a very interesting place. There's nothing monotonous, including the passage of time on earth, see. Now, on earth you sense the passing of time. The clock ticks, you know, the sun goes over the horizon, and you sense the passing of time. You don't sense the passing of time. But there are different periods of time. There's a time when the sky is bright, and this we call day. And then there's a time when the sky is not so bright. The old folks had a name for it, gloaming, in the evening time. Some people think this is when God walked with Adam and Eve in the garden at the cool of evening, see. It's a time when activity seems to slow down. And this day and night, shall we call it? No night in heaven, but light and less light. Hard to put it in English, you know. It makes a 24-hour period.
Well, it's hard to put it in human.
Yes, the same as we have on earth.
So it's a 24-hour period.
Yes, and then the daylight time would go in 7-day lengths. So you have the week, and then at the end of the week, there was a special day set aside for special worship services in God's presence.
Jesus said, "In my Father's house are many mansions, and I go to prepare you one." I want you to tell me about mansions in heaven.
Very good subject. As I approach my mansion, which I'm going to call my country mansion, there is a rose arbor in front of it with a heart-shaped trellis. You go through this heart-shaped trellis, lovely row of flowers on this side. I don't know what flowers are, but somebody told me they were chrysanthemums.
How do they know?
Well, I described them for them, and they said they must be chrysanthemums. And the mansion itself sits on about 10 acres, large place. And then we go into the vestibule, large, round, about 20 feet round, large place.
Inside the front door?
Inside the front door, yes, when you enter through the front door. So as you step in this vestibule, to the right there's a door, and in that door is the banquet room. And then to the left is a door. In that door is the fellowship hall, or the living room, as we say on earth. And then in front of you is a spiral stairway that goes up to the other floors. Then on the second floor, there is a huge balcony that overlooks the garden, so that you can be up on the balcony and look down into the garden and see what's growing down there. The second floor is music room, piano. I play guitar, so I have a guitar.
Any special kind?
Well, yes, it's very special. Inlaid with white mother of pearl, something like the gate of the city we talked about.
Great.
Very beautiful. Let's talk about a banquet now.
Yes.
In the banquet room. We gather in this room, we gather our friends. Like my father may want to be with his brothers and sisters, but there are some times when I want my father with me and his children, see, plus other friends we'd gather around. Now I sit at the servant end of the table, and Jesus sits at the head of the table.
Jesus is at your banquet.
Jesus comes to the banquets, yes. He did on earth, he does in heaven. And we think of Jesus as standing at God's right hand. But you see, Jesus is able to appear any place he wants to. He's not just in my banquet. There's other banquets, and he can appear also in all those other banquets.
At the same time.
Yes, at the same time. The word omnipresent, it really means what it says. We think of the Spirit of God being omnipresent because we can't see it. See? And we think if something we can see can't be omnipresent. But that's not the case. Even though we can see Jesus in heaven, he is still omnipresent. He can be any place he wants to be. Now, we're not omnipresent. We're only one place at a time. But that's not the case with Jesus.
In heaven, we're in one place, but Jesus can be at your banquet, my banquet,
Right.
Lois's picnic,
Yes. Any place.
Brother Joe's party.
And at the same time, standing at the right hand of God. And then the people sit around the sides. And then the person who is serving comes in, and they're directed as to what to serve, and they go back out again. And they bring in a platter. Now, as we said before, most things in heaven are gold, but this is a silver platter. I don't know why, I just noticed it was a silver platter, you know. It's oval shaped like a platter usually is. And on this platter is little things that look like bonbons, little small pieces of food. And it is made, I don't know if you ever tasted almond butter,
Sure.
but it's like almond butter, and then they flavor it with dried fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very tasty. And so it's not piled high, just neatly put on the tray, the pieces of food. And as it's passed around, each person takes a piece, passes it to the next person, and when one piece is taken, another piece appears in its place. You know, something like the 5 loaves and 2 fish.
Right, they never ran out.
Never ran out. That's
Right.
right. Just kept passing them out as they went around the table. Oh, I forgot to mention that there's little angelic creatures or something that make the music. You don't put your cassette in a boombox and push the button.
No stereos?
No stereos. It just is little angels that make this music.
While you're eating, or all the time, or when you're...
Well, especially at the banquet, I could see them. You know, I wondered where the music was coming from, and then I could see the little angelic.
Are they singing, playing?
Just singing.
Just singing.
There seems to be instruments, but I didn't know where that was coming from. Now, there are intimacies in heaven. Let me explain this. We were talking about the Spirit of God living in us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
People say, well, how does the Spirit of God live in us? Well, let me say this. My soul lives in my body, just like I put my hand in a glove. The glove's dead till I put my hand in it.
Yes.
But as soon as I put my hand in it, it comes to life. So my soul looks like my body, fits in my body like a glove, and gives my soul life. See, when my soul departs, my body lifeless. So the Spirit of God, the same way, he fits in our body like a hand in a glove.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives us spiritual life. Our soul gives us physical life, see? But the Spirit gives us spiritual life. That is an intimacy.
God living in us.
God living in us. That is an intimacy. As the Apostle Paul says, Christ in us and we in Christ. That is an intimacy.
And that's what we have here on earth.
Yes.
But in heaven, it's to a greater degree.
Yes. But we learn that intimacy here. The kind of intimacies that are in heaven, we learn them here, see?
Notwithstanding the humanness of it, I'm pretty happy in my marriage here, and I'm believe that there are a lot of couples who are happily married. When they get to heaven, these couples, will they remain with their earth mate, or will they get different companions?
No, it's very likely. There are a lot of people who are happily married, about 85%, according to my research. And it's my understanding that God's not going to break up a good thing. I mean, it's very likely that the companionship will remain, a delightful companionship will remain. But for those 15% who are unhappily married, I do have to say that God has the answers, and He's going to make it right.
And so fellowship here on earth with Jesus is so vital.
Yes.
It must be in heaven even more vital
Oh,
and
yes.
wonderful. You've met Jesus in heaven.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Can you describe that meeting or those meetings?
Well, let's start with the first one.
First one is good.
Okay, I was praying and fasting at the time, and I really wanted to know what God wanted me to do for my life. You know, what do you want me to do, Lord? Here I am. And then I saw Jesus, and He was tall. And of course, like Daniel, I just fell down on my face, no breath left in me.
Were you frightened?
No, I wasn't afraid. I was overcome, you might say, awestruck. But I wanted to do something. So I just fell out and put my arms around his ankles like this. And my head was like this to the side of his ankle. And I thought I was crying, but I don't know if I was or not. But I was really emotionally stirred up, you know. And then I saw a little tear come out of my right eye. I thought it was a tear, and it dropped like it was going down in a canyon. And I saw it going down, and then I heard the voice of Jesus. He said, "That's how much you love me."
One drop.
That really shook me up. I said, "I thought I loved you more than that, Lord." He said, "You have some things to learn about love."
And that was your first meeting.
Right. We don't have the right meaning of love on earth. We've got to learn God's love. And later, I don't know where that took place. I couldn't place it where it was. But
If it were heaven or here.
right. But later, then I got to talking to Jesus in heaven about some serious things, see, about companions and companionship. And like most people, that's an interesting subject.
Yes.
See, God is our deepest need, but a companion is our deepest desire.
Aha.
See,
Good description.
and I wanted to know about companionship. And so the Lord showed me this very beautiful creature, a very beautiful lady, very beautiful feminine being. And He said, "What do you think about her?" I said, "Oh boy, she's really something." He said, "Would you like to have a companion like that?" And I said, "Oh boy, that would be my heart's desire." I said, "But you know, I don't have a companion. I mean, she's not my companion, see?" He said, "Now you understand how I'd like to be with my companion." Oh, that really made it plain to me. Jesus wants to be with His bride, the church. That's precious to me. Really one of the highlights of my visits to heaven.
So the purpose of heaven is for us to be with Christ.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I couldn't explain it better myself.
Fellowship with Him.
The fellowship with Jesus.
And
Right.
that will meet our deepest needs.
It will, yes, meet our deepest need. And when He finally gets this companionship straightened out, we understand how things are, they'll meet our deepest desire. And I always tell people, I encourage them to go to heaven. And I say, if you're not satisfied, you can punch me right on the nose.
When you get there?
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt anyway if they did, see. But I know they'll be satisfied. I just know people will be happy to be with Jesus.
Well, I suppose there's a question in a lot of people's minds is if they're going to be bored in heaven.
I saw a picture one time of a fellow twirling his halo around his finger.
Nothing else to do?
Like as though there's nothing to do in heaven. Oh, no.
That's not the truth.
That is not the truth at all. No. I mean, if all we did was enjoy the fellowship of our covenant companion and enjoy the presence of Jesus, if that's all we did, let me tell you, it'd be out of sight.
And won't there be companionship with our loved ones who have gone on, or
Oh,
we
yes.
meet there?
Yes.
Friends
Yes.
in the Lord?
Right. Our relatives, loved ones. And even those that we haven't met yet. When we meet them, it's going to be like an old friend. I mean, being in evangelistic work, you know that when you meet new Christians, they don't seem strange at all.
No.
You
They're
seem like you've known them,
sisters.
brothers and sisters in the Lord.
Right.
It's a love with which we love everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a love that carries you along in heaven.
The Bible talks about us laying up treasures in heaven as opposed to here on earth where moth and rust do corrupt. In heaven, did you see any evidence of treasures?
Yes, I did, Charlie. In my mansion one day, I went down into the basement. Now, when we think of a basement, we think of a place not desirable, but you can't tell it. It's a real nice place to be.
More like a rumpus room?
Yeah, family room, something, you know. So I noticed bins of jewels about 2 feet wide and about 4 feet deep. I don't know how deep they were this way, maybe 2 or 3 feet. And different colored jewels in the bins. They were separated. Diamonds, you know, sapphires. That's my favorite, sapphires. My favorite color is blue, see?
Mm-hmm.
I like them.
I couldn't tell.
And you couldn't tell, yeah. And I noticed all these bins of jewels. And so I ran over to them and I dipped into the rubies, the red ones.
Mm-hmm.
I said my favorite color is blue, didn't I? I dipped into the red ones first. I picked them up like this, left them dribble down through my fingers. Just look at that. My angel God was there showing me these things, you know.
Yes.
That's what you get. And the Bible says if you even give a cup of cold water in the name of a disciple, you get a big reward in heaven. This, the smallest things you do get large rewards in heaven.
And you're rewarded in jewels, or that's one of the rewards?
That's one of the ways you're rewarded. Girls like jewels better than fellas do, but I do like jewels.
You like pretty things.
But as I saw those jewels for the first time and was playing with them, my angel guide said, "Do you like those?" I said, "Oh, they're pretty." My angel guide said, "Yes, but they can't love you in return." A real lesson. I said, "Oh."
But the most important thing is not
Right. The most important thing is fellowship.
love.
Love and fellowship. See, when you love somebody and they love you back in return, the jewels can't do that. All they can do is look pretty. That was the lesson of the jewels. But we must remember that God is in charge of all these things.
Mm-hmm.
He even tells Jesus what to do. And when God tells Jesus something to do, to obey his Father is his extreme delight. See? So Jesus has jobs for us to do, little things for us to do. And they may be going to the outer environs to comfort a soul who just does not understand the glories of heaven.
The outer environs is the first place you
First
described
place
to
we
us.
described, yes.
That looks so much like earth.
Right.
A beautiful place.
When a child on earth dies, and God sends an angel to bring that child home, that angel is invincible. He will stop at nothing until his job is finished. And while he is doing that job, he has extreme delight in obeying God. When God tells us to do something and we obey that, extreme delight.
And now there's another place, the most holy place.
Right.
And it has several names.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I would like you to tell us those names and describe this place.
All right. You've already given this one name. It's also called the Father's presence, as the Scripture tells us in the Psalms, at his right hand and in his presence, fullness of joy. See?
The temple of heaven?
And also the temple of heaven.
Temple of Heaven.
And maybe we should take it like that, the temple of heaven. It's large, round structure, about 300 miles across.